Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast. And welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
In the mid-90s, I was living in a medium-sized city that wasn't terribly rural, but there was a lot of farmland and random patches of emptiness, trees. Generally quiet, but any of the rural stretches seemed very brief in a car. Anyway, I was 16 but didn't have a car yet and wanted to go to a party. But it was a ways away, like a good about 2-hour walk. I figured I'd wind up crashing there and getting a ride back in the morning. And it was a summer evening, so it wasn't dark until well after 8. I had what seemed like a 50-50 shot at getting laid if I showed, so you know what decision I made. The first leg of the walk is just the residential area I'm starting from. Sidewalks, yards, boring houses. Next stretch is down a sort of major road that has more businesses and stuff, which lets me stop for a drink and some sunflower seeds. Then it starts getting a little more rural, curvy roads through farm fields. It's still light out, maybe 7-ish. There's probably a word for it, but have you ever been somewhere and just noticed how quiet and eerie a place was? It wasn't even that quiet. There were bugs and some birds making noise. Whatever the case, it just felt off. It being light out made it feel no less creepy. Just made my skin crawl, you know? I got in my head about it, but kept moving. There's no sidewalk at this part, just the shoulder. There's a couple cars, but that's it. Then out of nowhere, a guy comes tearing out the corn across the road. It's not so much that he was running, just kind of moving quickly to get out of it. He's an adult, dressed normal, some sort of button-up shirt and off his pants. I kind of just freeze and he says, "Hey man, did you hear anything?" He's seeming friendly, but this is all weird and I didn't hear anything. So I say no and he curses and starts walking back the direction I came. I get to the party, all is fine. Don't get laid, do get drunk. Good enough. So we take the same basic route. I walk back, and I see the cornfield guy at the gas station next to this big black SUV thing. Same clothes, and he's looking right at us. I don't know why, but this time I got really freaked out. My friend and his brother told me to stop spurging out and soon I get dropped off. The rest of the day is uneventful. I'm up all night on the 90s internet because it was still fun then. My windows are closed, but it's a quiet enough neighborhood that you can hear it and kinda see the little change in lighting when a car goes by. I hear one come by, then again like 30 seconds later, then again, and then the kinda slow crunchy, their parking sound. I stop paying attention. Then I hear my downstairs screen door open and then the metal mail slot on our main door. My parents were asleep and I'm pretty sure I'm hearing all this, but not sure. Sure enough that I want to risk going in their room and waking them up over bullshit. You know how it is when you're a teenager. Also wouldn't be the first time a friend or someone did some kind of prank, which is kinda where my head went. So I get down there and do my ghost recon style, slinking around to peek out cracks in the window shades. No unusual cars anywhere, no people, no new sounds. It seems like the screen door is closed. So I nut up and go toward the front door, and down below the mail slot all over the floor are sunflower seed shells. Anyway, I wish there was a dramatic reveal here, but that's mostly it. I'm 100% sure I've seen the guy in car a lot of times in the nearly 30 years since, always exactly the same. And I've moved, both within that same area and to considerable distances away. Still sure I've seen him. Every few months. He never does anything.
My uncle's story I mentioned in the Appalachia thread, but basically he's convinced he had a run-in with the devil. 1996. My uncle lives in North Carolina at the time, working at an auto garage. Makes good money working 6 days a week because that's his work ethic. Also, the garage is closed on Sundays. Uncle is coming home from a day at work when he stops because he sees this cherry red Mustang. He guessed it's likely a model from 1965 or 64. Looks like it's having trouble. Driver is this dude he described as looking like he wouldn't look out of place in a golden age of Hollywood film. Clothing wasn't old, looked more business casual. Uncle offers to pop the hood and see if he could figure out the problem since there's very visible steam coming from it. Stranger is very nice, social fella. Seems like he's in no worry or hurry. Uncle takes 15 minutes looking around under the car hood and under the car itself. There's nothing wrong that he could figure out. The stranger offers to let my uncle inside the car to try something. Something in my uncle tells him to politely decline. Says he'll go back into town because he knows the tow guy, and they'll take it to the garage to have a look. As my uncle gets back in his car, out of the corner of his eyes he noticed the stranger's eyes are a dull shade of yellow, nothing but yellow. Uncle floors it back to the garage, talks the tow truck guy into going back to the spot. They find the car but no sign of the guy. The car is completely unlocked, no license, registration, anything. My uncle had one of the local cops run the plates and it turns out they're legit, but the guy who owned the car died back in '88.
Well, this story is obviously fake. Everyone knows the devil only goes down to Georgia.
This actually happened. It is not supernatural or really exciting, but very disturbing. About 20 years ago, my friend and his brother loved scaring themselves by going to haunted houses and walking around. I live in a rural area, and there are plenty of abandoned shacks and farmhouses around. They were both horror fanatics, and for them, going to these places was like being in a real-life horror movie. They heard there was an old shack, and there was a rumor that Satanists used it to meet up, have rituals, whatever they do. We parked the car and headed into the woods where we were told it was. We walked a very long time into the woods and encountered a broken-down farmhouse. They walked around it, and they were both scared and excited by being there. My friend told me it wasn't the one we were looking for, so we walked even deeper into the woods looking for the satanic shack. There was a fairly large old piece of aluminum sticking out of the ground, and as we walked past, it made a popping sound and they almost shit their pants. I thought it was hilarious to see them act this way. We got very deep, and finally there was a clearing. There was an old shack in the clearing. The shack was not completely decrepit like the other house. It was also painted completely black. It really did look very scary. The clearing had been maintained some, and I could see a small power line going into the top. It had power and people had definitely been there. Now we are all stunned looking at this foreboding place out in the middle of some very dense woods. We go inside and there is no furniture of any kind, and it is fairly dusty. There was one larger room right when you go in the door, but still very small as rooms go, about the size of 2 master bedrooms. There's a smaller room that was connected to this room by a very short hall. No bathroom or kitchen, just 2 rooms. We walked around and looked at both rooms. Nothing very interesting. My friend's brother had made a discovery in the second room. It was an old Polaroid instant photo of illegal material. What it was a girl about 8 years old, standing in a coffin. We were all really terrified after seeing this, and ran back to the car as fast as we could. No, we did not keep the photo, just got freaked out badly and left. His brother had carefully picked it up by one corner, so no, his fingerprints were not on it. We talked about satanic rumors we had heard about and were all really incredulous. I felt some nausea deep in my stomach. We never really discussed this ever again, and basically pretended like this never happened. It still really disturbs me to think there is some kind of satanic activity going on in my small town, completely hidden from sight. I don't think about this much anymore, but when I do, I still get that deep nausea feeling.
My friends and I were fond of trails. It was fun being away from parents, but still close enough to main roads to not be too scary. There were at least 50 yards of trees and whatnot between the trails and the roads. Anyways, some girl my friend was talking to said her neighborhood had some too. We hopped in my Bronco and started driving through these dirt roads, and she told us about this creepy house out in the middle of this area. Again, it wasn't my local spot, so I don't really remember where it was. We get to this creepy abandoned house, and it has the usual spray paint graffiti of teenagers putting anarchy logos or dicks or pentagrams, etc. But when we walked and saw this creepy-ass chair, we left and never came back. It was in the center of the empty, dirty-ass living room, and it looked like someone had their hands taped to the arms. But the tape was cut at the top, like someone had duct taped their hands, did things, and then used a knife to free the person.
Live in an area where just outside of town, weather can change drastically faster than in town due to elevation. An about 45-degree Fahrenheit night, driving for work, ends up with a light snowing in a small village at these higher elevations. Pull over at the local taco truck to buy a water and ask the guy for directions for parking. Nobody ever answers the window, even though I can hear the radio and equipment. Look around the parking lot and see a teenish guy just walking around, but not acting suspicious. Decide to drive down a block. See another similar build teen standing on the corner of a residential block, looking straight up, eyes closed. Decide the weather is going to get worse, and that's a good excuse to go home. Flip a U-turn when further down, but even though it was light snow, my vehicle does a minor spin out and ends up horizontal in the middle of the road. Freak out a tiny bit, but check everything is working. I hear a light scrape, so I think I hit a branch and look out the mirror. There is a man standing right to my right with all black clothes and a pale, perfectly blank mask. I hit the gas maybe a little too hard and burn out a tiny bit, but get moving. The first kid in the parking lot is now running in his original direction, staring straight up. Drive back down into town and never work in that area at night again. During the day, I swear there's like crowds of people walking around. I have no idea what was going on.
I used to work at a day camp every summer for like 4 years. Be me, 18 years old, summer 2010. Be my first couple of weeks where I'm one of the new guys, so the newbies were in charge of the more physical stuff, like setting up the targets for archery, which is what I got stuck doing. The archery range is away from the road, but a bit back in the woods because of reasons I'll never understand. I'm getting everything set up so the older counselors can bring the kids up there later that morning, when I start hearing this whispering kind of. At first I thought it's some hikers because this camp is literally next door to a state park, and sometimes people wander off the hiking paths and end up there. Look around thinking this is one of the older counselors screwing around with me because we did shit like that to each other. Nobody. Look further. See nobody. Promptly shrug it off as someone in the woods and be on my way. The camp, as I mentioned before, has a lodge, this big-ass structure with an office, nurse's office, and foyer upstairs, and downstairs is the showers plus storage. I'm on my break at the lodge, eating when I mentioned that I think I heard someone out by the archery range. One of the older counselors, this dude named Brandon, tells me, "Oh, you too." Yeah, so do I. Took a troop on a trail hike around there, and some of the kids mentioned hearing someone. Learned from another counselor that that stretch of woods and road is apparently the site of a hit and run back in 1972, and that strange stuff happens in the woods surrounding that stretch of road. Full disclosure, I do not live in the same town as the camp. I live 2 towns over, and this is my first time hearing this. Be a few days later. Learned people have also seen shadows out the corner of their eyes. That late in the day, that stretch of road starts feeling creepy.
Any other ghostly encounters from those woods?
One from my first overnight stay, yeah. Overnight stay is basically once in a while where the kids get to stay overnight. Pretty simple. There's essentially a skeleton crew of counselors, like 4 total. We set up in this patch of woods where we have a fire running to cook hot dogs, s'mores, that type of stuff. It's not long before we've gotten the kids to go to sleep. Us 4 counselors shoot the shit. Drink. Yes, we had a counselor who bought a group of 18 to 20-year-olds booze. Were we supposed to? No, but we managed to conceal that fact. Randomly, we start hearing someone walk around in the area immediate to the campsite. It's unmistakably a person. Assume it's someone trekking through the woods. This one girl turns on her flashlight to get a look at who'd be walking around this close to our camp. Nothing. No one. But there's definitely someone walking around. The 2 ballsiest of us go and explore further, and we're looking around some more. There's this outline of a person that we assume is a shadow, so we walk towards it. Get there. Nobody. We see this outline of a human again this time, about 100 yards from us. Then like that, it's gone. Neither me nor the guy who looked for the source of the sounds could explain it, but once it's gone, we just go back to camp. It's definitely something we talk about the next day.
This has happened to me. Me and two friends were camping on our local trails. This neighborhood all had houses that backed into trees, and then ditches and retention ponds. You couldn't really get lost, as there were always houses in the distance. We decided to camp and make a fire just to do something. We were like 16 and 17 at the time. We were sitting on the ground near the tent we made. It was starting to get dark. We camped on the edge of a hill that led to a small river-like thing that fed retention ponds, and on the other side was a hill that you could walk about 40 yards and hit the other neighborhood. Again, we weren't like out there camping. We were just in the woods between houses. Suddenly, exactly like you mentioned, we hear walking. Like clearly the tempo of a human that's walking carefully down the hill. I looked over at my friend and he heard it too, and I asked him if he heard that. We looked over at our other friend who was standing a few feet away, and he stopped what he was doing too. It was so clear I was worried some homeless guy was going to come mess with us. The walking and the crunching leaves sound continues, and we start whispering like, "What should we do?" And, "I don't see anything, what is it?" Finally, after the longest 40 seconds of hearing someone right across this small river, on the slope, I muster up the deepest voice I can, I'm a teenager, and say, "Hey, who the fuck is over there?" Silence. We look at each other. My friend takes the cue and says something similar. My third friend throws a rock. Nothing. Silence. We all look at each other, and nope, out of there. We came back later that night with a shotgun and collected all of our stuff and then ran back home again. It was the most clearly something is over there, we just need to be brave enough to face it. Turn to, holy shit, we need to get the hell out of here moment I've had. I completely assumed we were being stalked, but the pattern of it being human was scary.
Be Me audio recording tech. Service a shit ton of indie bands who have zero chance at a career. Be sent to a job on location for both an album track and music video shoot. The band is recording at an old abandoned boarding school. Closed since the late 60s. School looks like one big mansion out in the middle of nowhere. Very cool looking. Not going to lie. The band is not half bad either. Sexy, lead female singer. Myself and an intern set up for recording in the grand dining hall. Record multiple takes. Everything is running smoothly. Go to monitor the mixing console. Monitor each instrument and vocal track. Everything sounding good and going better than expected. Isolate lead female vocals. Really fantastic voice. Very creepy and ethereal. Almost unnaturally angelic. Notice a chorus effect on the voice. Chorus effect makes it sound like more than one person singing. Not professional to add effects during recording. Recording should always be dry. Immediately become irate with the intern, go to find him. Find an intern and lay into him. Intern denies using chorus effect. Take him back to the mixing console and have him listen to lead female vocals. Intern hears it too. Another female voice stacked above the lead singers. Almost imperceptible. Scrub through a few hours worth of recordings. The same small voice appears at infrequent intervals. Take the track into the computer to analyze. Try to isolate the extra voice. There it is. The extra voice sounds unmistakably childlike. My face when I realize that I've unintentionally captured EVPs of a sad little spirit girl trying eagerly to sing along, trapped alone in that old empty building for decades. Finally a chance to have her tiny voice heard. Blood turns to ice while tears stream down my face. No proof because, of course, the files were lost. Thinking of that sad little girl still gives me sleepless nights. I wonder if I should go visit her from time to time, but also hell no.
Be me, 11 or 12 years old. I live in the suburbs of LA. There's a huge mansion a couple blocks over we called the Witch House. Totally vacant the whole time we lived there. Boarded up windows, chain link fence, development company sign that was there for years. One day we're riding bikes and see an Armenian guy carrying a toddler into the house, totally asleep but red-faced and shoeless. I think someone's bought the house after so long. Nope, still boarded up, still fenced off. Guy comes back every few weeks with a different kid, always asleep. Finally realize something is weird and tell our parents. Parents call the cops who don't find signs of forced entry and say if they're squatters, it's the responsibility of the property owner to deal with them. Buddy decides he's going to go inside. We talk him out of it. This goes back and forth for another few months, him hyping himself up and us talking him out of it. One day he's not at school. Parents think he's been abducted. Huge community response. Kind of a shit area, so they debate if it was gang-related or a random kidnapping. Police don't have any trace of him, but find his fingerprints at the witch house after we tell our parents he was going there. 2 weeks pass. Find his body in a drainage ditch 10 miles away. Rule it an accidental drowning. Still haunts me 20 years later. I did a lot of therapy. I genuinely believe he saw something he shouldn't have and got killed.
These threads are both scary and comforting because they remind me of the strange stuff that happened to me over the years. Be in early grade school, sleeping with my sister and mom in a large bed. Wake up for no reason, laying on my side, facing the wall. I hear my name being whispered above me like from the ceiling. A gentle, comforting voice, like the voice of God and the Prince of Egypt is probably the best way to describe it. Anon, frozen with fear. Anon. The voice is clearly not my mom or sister's voice. I can even hear one of them snoring slightly. Anon. Too scared to look up, act like I'm asleep. Eventually fall back to sleep after hearing my name once more. Later learn about the story of the Lord calling Samuel at night. For the longest time I thought the Lord was trying to talk to me that night, and I ignored him. Hope this isn't coming off too preachy. Other weird thing that happened to me later in life. Be Christian Anon, in a college dorm room with a roommate. I have been worried about my sister all week because she's doing badly in college. She is stressed out, worried she'll flunk. Very unlike her. Try to take a nap to take my mind off it all. I have night terror like a dream during my nap about my sister getting kicked out of college, her crying, everyone sad and dream. Suddenly I feel extreme comfort over me. Feel someone's hand gently placed on my shoulder. Here, it will be okay. It is under control, whispered behind my ear. Is that my roommate? Didn't sound like his voice. Start waking up. Hand lets go of my shoulder. Wake up fully expecting my roommate to be over me trying to comfort me. My roommate is on the other side of the room, studying and listening to music doing his own thing. Realize my back is against the corner of the room. Physically, no way for someone to place their hand on my shoulder or whisper behind my ear. Dazed and confused rest of day. One of my friends stops by to say hi later. Probably notices I look disheveled. Small chit-chat. Tell him about my concerns. He says something towards the end of the conversation. And you know it'll be okay. God has it under control. Immediately wide awake like I drank 5 shots of espresso. My sister started doing better in college and she didn't flunk out. It was all okay after all. Never had that happen before or since.
Be me, very young. My parents sent my twin brother and I to bed for the evening. Screw that, we just got an Xbox. Pretend to sleep in our room and sneak out after some time. Peek into the living room to make sure all family members are there. Range hot.png. After making sure we were clear, we snuck into our older sister's room, as that is where that sweet, sweet brick box was waiting. Leave the door slightly open and leave the lights off to enhance discretion. Upon turning the TV and Xbox on, my twin and I bumbled about the main menu as we had no idea what we were trying to do. Here comes the fun. I'd been sitting with my back facing the closet, and my twin brother was sitting parallel to me but facing the closet. As we're playing around on the Xbox home dashboard, I heard what sounded like one of the metal hangers in the closet scrape the metal bar it was hanging on, as though they were being parted. For the life of me, I don't know why, but I gave not a flying fuck. My twin brother, on the other hand, had a much different reaction. He looks past me and up towards the closet, eyes open so wide he probably saw a ghost LOL, and he gets up and tears ass out of the room without a word. This didn't faze me, however. I continued to mess around with the Xbox when I heard a female voice from right behind me whisper my name in a hushed but soothing fashion. Anon. I immediately turned to face the closet, where all I could see was the pitch-black shape of a person seemingly darker than the dark of the closet stepping out towards me. I bounced and remembered nothing after.
I've got one story to share, fairly long because it needs context, kinda. 2024, my pet dog is 15 years old, way past her life expectancy. Should have croaked at 10, 12 tops. Had a really good life until her last year, when her teeth started falling out. The vet gave her a lot of medicine, but nothing worked. In her last 2 months, she couldn't even eat properly, either due to pain on her gums or not knowing how to do so with only a handful of teeth. Have a lot of cavities. Have pulled many of my teeth too, so I know just how bad it can get. I legitimately considered shooting myself many times due to how excruciating it can be. But the dentist isn't open in the early morning and you can't sleep, so it's a good 12+ hours of pain. Due to knowing how painful it can be, I took her to many other vets, but there was just nothing to do. The dog would open up her wounds over and over again because she's extremely old, so she wouldn't heal up fast. I don't want to let her go. I'm selfish. So she spends her last week in excruciating pain. I deserve to go to hell for this. All of my other sins have nothing on this one, at least in my opinion. The day before we put her down, she was just lying in her bed moaning in pain, trying and failing to keep some food in her stomach. I can't do anything but cry beside her. I wanted her to sleep beside me for the last time, but I knew she got up every 2 hours or so to eat and drink, and she could no longer jump out of my bed with ease. I woke up to the dog moaning, not that I could sleep properly that night. Knew it's time, so it's just a matter of waiting for the vet to open. I didn't even have the balls to hold her paw as the lights went out. I couldn't stop crying, so my mom was the one that sent her off. We buried her in a little box inside the mausoleum my great-great-grandfather built ages ago. I have actually never lost someone dear to me before, so this breaks me. Don't want to eat, skipped work, want to skip work the whole week. I can't think clearly. I want to die if a pet dying hurts this fucking much. I genuinely don't know what I'll do when it's my parents' turn. Crash at 4 a.m. or so. Not sure if I was hallucinating, but right before I drifted off to sleep, I swear I saw a tiny white shadow jump on my bed. Wake up crying, try and fail to get my shit together so I can go to work. Day is a blur until I get home. Again, I'm devastated because my little dog wasn't there to greet me. Eat and go to sleep. This time I saw it clearly. There was a small white shadow in a corner, just sitting there, I guess. I'm not scared. Throw the covers over my head and cry myself to sleep. This happens 4 more times. On the 6th night, I realized my dog can't rest because I still refuse to let her go. Even though it sounds crazy, I face the white shadow and tell her, "It's okay to leave because I'll be fine." Probably. It's still there. I apologize for not ending her suffering as soon as I could, and for not letting her have pups. My biggest mistake, honestly. It wouldn't have hurt this much if I could have something to remember her by. I don't wait for a response. I just turn around and cry. This time, I shit you not, felt something jump on my bed and snuggle to my back. I didn't want to turn around, not out of fear, but because my dog would never leave if I did. The next day, night rather, the shadow is no longer there. I'm both happy and sad about it. That's it. This is so far the only paranormal experience I've had. I'm not sure how to feel about it. I've heard animals have no souls, so the white shadow was probably a demon mocking my suffering. But even if it was, I'm glad it had a change of heart at the last second and comforted me, kind of.
That's a sweet story, Anon. I'm sorry for your loss, and animals do have souls. St. Aquinas reasoned in the 1100s that animals have an animus, or active spirit, lesser than a soul, but not true souls because they don't know about right and wrong. However, modern behavioral biology has shown that many animals, including dogs and rats, seem to make moral choices, like sharing food with others to no personal benefit. The choice to do so also varies by individual. Some rats help, some don't, implying that some animals are capable of individual moral reasoning. So, using Aquinas' same reasoning, animals do in fact likely have souls. It probably was your dog.
One more from me. This one is the scary one. Teenage-aged Anon. Having continual nightmares over a couple weeks. They are escalating and always seem to be set inside my actual house. One started off with Black Shadow Cat coming into the front door of the house and screaming at me. Another is being chased by something around the house that I can't see. Enter my worst nightmare. Starts off with me sitting in bed. Hear front house doors slam open. Hear something rush inside my mom's room. Screaming, her bedroom door slams shut. Hear it go to my sister's room. Screaming, her bedroom door slams shut. Sister runs into my room screaming to close the door. She is frantically trying to close the door. I join her, unsure of what's going on. Suddenly it runs up to the door, fighting to keep it open. Get a good close-up look at it. Thing is covered in a black dress that is transparent around the edges. Has a wide-brimmed witch's hat. Extremely vivid look at face. Hyper-realistic half-horse skull face, half-corpsey face. Looks kind of like the mutant bear from the movie Annihilation, but 3 times scarier and more human-looking, and like someone bashed their face in. It's screaming in my face like it's mocking us while we're both screaming, trying to close the door shut. Wake up, drenched in sweat. A few nights later, I'm wide awake. Can't sleep for some reason. Intense dread hits me. Hear weird clicking noises around the room. Dark, shadowy mass appears at the end of the bed with orange, beady eyes. Feel like I'm about to die for no reason. Start praying for protection from God. It dissolves away immediately. All feeling of dread goes away. Tears in eyes pass out, likely from shock. Wake up feeling rested for once. It was years until I had an actual nightmare. I don't know if the nightmare witch was related to the Black Mass, but goodness gracious, I get goosebumps every time I recall this all.
Play Football Manager. It has tens of thousands of real name players in it, but once they retire, it throws out random names. Everyone looks forward to Intake Day because it's possible to get a son, but massively unlikely. Intake Day. Check the players. Scour the surnames. What the? There's one with my name. I've defeated the odds and gotten a son. You know it's your son because they have the same surname. And under favored personnel, you'll be listed as your name. Weird. I'm not listed as his father. Remember, I don't use my real name because I sometimes post caps on that board. He has my real name. Has the same date of birth too, just a different year. Don't use my real date of birth on there either, so I can start younger. Born in the same town as me, but I do put my real town in. That was weird. Different player in the intake has my best friend's name. Different date of birth and place of birth, though. It felt a bit surreal, honestly. I never did get a son.
Be me last Christmas. Spent 2 weeks in a psych ward after having a complete breakdown because of the death of a family member I was really close to. One night I can't fucking sleep for the life of me, so I hang out in the commons and read some books to kill time and maybe get tired. The only people on the floor at that time of night were 2 guards, one who has to watch this one guy being kept in his room at all times. Don't know why. The other is there because that's apparently a policy of the hospital. Also awake is this one lady who constantly talks about Satan, how Satan is in that hospital and that she sees him everywhere. She's chit-chatting with the guard about God and Jesus and how Jesus saved her and stuff. Look up from the book I'm reading. There's a door at the end of the hall that leads to an outdoor area for the patients during summer. See this dark silhouette of a person staring inside from the out. I wouldn't know how someone would be out there because it's December. Go look out that window. Look to see what or who'd be out there. Nobody I can see. Try to shrug it off, but the religious lady pipes up and says, "Devil, he's outside." I wasn't the only one who'd see strange shadow figures on the floor of that psych ward. A few other patients discussed among themselves that they had also seen a shadow walk around or pass doors late at night.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more Greentext will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.